Chapter 1. Dust and Desperation. The sun hung low and merciless over the town of Dry Creek, casting long shadows through the haze of heat and dust. It was the kind of day where even the wind gave up and left folks to sweat and suffer. The town square bustled with noise, boots on wood, the rustle of desperate whispers, and the auctioneer's voice calling bids with a grin too wide for such a solemn scene. On the platform, standing barefoot and trembling, was a young girl who couldn't have been more than 19. Her dress was threadbare, clinging to her small frame like a second skin. In her arms, a wailing newborn squirmed against her chest, red-faced and hungry. "An orphan girl," the auctioneer hollered. "Strong, can cook and clean, comes with a child, might be a burden or a blessing depending on how you look at it." The crowd murmured, a mix of curiosity, pity, and judgment. Some men leered, a few women averted their eyes. Behind the crowd, leaning against a fence post, stood Luke Callahan. He was a man built of silence and shadow, the kind who drew more questions than answers. A once notorious outlaw turned rancher, Luke had buried his past in the dry earth of his remote ranch. His brown hat sat low over weathered eyes, and his dusty duster flapped in the breeze that had finally dared to stir. He hadn't come for the auction. He'd come for grain, maybe a tool or two. But now, his gaze was fixed on the girl and her baby. She looked like someone who had lost everything and was still clinging to what little mattered. The bidding began, low and cruel. $2 for the pair," someone shouted. "3, 5, barked a drunkard. The girl flinched. Luke's jaw tightened. Something in him stirred, a memory, maybe, of someone once just as lost. 10, he said quietly, stepping forward. The crowd turned. $10, the auctioneer blinked, almost surprised. "Going once, going twice. Sold to Mr. Callahan." The girl stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief. Luke didn't offer her a smile, just a nod. "You got a name?" he asked, not unkindly. "Clara," she whispered. "And he's Samuel." "Come on," he said. "Let's get you home." Chapter 2. Silent Grounds. Luke's ranch sat 5 miles outside of town, nestled between sunburnt hills and dry sagebrush. It was a quiet place, too quiet for most. But to Clara, it felt like a different world, safe, removed. She hadn't said much on the ride, neither had he. Samuel cried the entire way. The house was small but clean, a few framed pictures on the wall, a rifle over the mantel, and a rocking chair by the fireplace. Luke showed her the spare room. "You can stay here," he said. "Ain't much, but it's yours. There's goat milk, bread, and stew in the kitchen. If you need something, ask." Clara stood there, stunned by the kindness. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you take me?" He paused in the doorway. "Because no one else would." Then he left her to the silence. Chapter 3. A House Full of Ghosts. Days turned to weeks. Clara helped around the house, cooking, cleaning, tending to the few animals that wandered the ranch. She never asked about payment, and Luke never treated her like a servant. They lived in quiet rhythm, each bound by their own ghosts. Luke rarely spoke of his past, but Clara knew pain when she saw it. One night, as the wind howled and the fire crackled, she found him staring into the flames. "Who did you lose?" she asked softly. He didn't look at her, just sipped his whiskey. "Wife. Years ago. Died trying to give me a son." Clara swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "Me too." She sat beside him. Samuel slept in her arms. "I lost my parents to fever," she said. "The man who gave me Samuel was kind at first, then cruel. When I tried to run, he sold me to a traveling trader who brought me to Dry Creek. He died of snakebite 2 days before the auction." Luke looked at her then, something tender breaking through his hardened eyes. "You didn't deserve that," he said. "No one does." Chapter 4. Trouble Rides In. Word of Luke's new house guest spread through Dry Creek like wildfire, and not everyone was pleased. One afternoon, while Luke was out tending to cattle, a rider came up the drive. Clara stepped onto the porch, baby on her hip. The man was lean, greasy-haired, with a crooked sneer. "Well, well," he said, "ain't you the girl from the auction? I reckon you still owe me some coin for leaving my employer before your contract was up." Clara froze. It was Silas Marin, one of the men who used to travel with her old captor. "I don't owe you nothing," she said firmly. He climbed off his horse. "I beg to differ." Just then, the click of a rifle echoed through the air. Luke stood behind him, shotgun aimed steady. "She don't owe you a damn thing," he said coldly. Silas raised his hands. "Whoa now, I was just visiting." "You're done visiting. Ride back to wherever you slithered from, and don't come back." Silas's face twisted with anger, but he backed down and rode off, leaving a trail of dust behind him. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She sat on the porch, watching the stars, Samuel tucked against her chest. Luke came out with 2 mugs of coffee. "I'll keep you safe," he said. She looked up at him, eyes glassy with emotion. "I know." Chapter 5. Rain After Drought. Over the months, something unspoken bloomed between them. He never touched her, never asked for anything, but she saw the way he watched over her, how he cradled Samuel when he thought no one was looking, how he fixed the crib with sanded wood and care. She in turn brought laughter back to the house. She sang when she cooked, she smiled more often, and Samuel gurgled with joy in her arms. One evening, as the rains finally came, she stepped out onto the porch and let the drops soak her hair. Luke came behind her, silent as always. "Feel that?" she whispered. "It's like the sky forgave us." He smiled for the first time in a long while. "I think I'm falling for you, Clara," he said. Her heart jumped. "I already have," she replied. He stepped forward, brushing a wet strand of hair from her cheek. "I ain't good with words," he said, "but I'll spend every day trying to earn the life we never thought we'd get." She reached up, kissed him gently. "You already have." Chapter 6. Redemption and Forever. Silas returned a month later, and this time he brought trouble. 3 men rode with him, guns drawn. They stormed the ranch, demanding Clara and threatening Luke. But Clara was not the same girl from that auction block. She hid Samuel beneath the floorboards and took Luke's old pistol from the wall. Luke faced the men in the front yard, rifle ready. Gunfire cracked through the air. Luke took a shot to the shoulder, dropped to his knee. Clara, with shaking hands and furious tears, fired once, twice, striking Silas in the leg and sending the rest scrambling. By the time the sheriff arrived, the danger had passed. Luke was bleeding, but alive. Clara held him, tears soaking his shirt. "You saved me," he gasped. "No," she said. "You saved me. I just returned the favor." Epilogue. A new kind of home. Years later, Dry Creek knew a different Luke Callahan. He still wore the old hat and spoke little, but the shadows in his eyes were gone. Clara became a pillar of the town, raising Samuel, helping other orphaned girls, building something more than just a home. A haven. They married beneath that same dusty sky, under the old oak tree near the ranch. And when Samuel grew, he rode alongside Luke, learning the land, the cattle, and what it meant to be a man shaped not by blood, but by love. The past never disappeared, but it no longer defined them. Because sometimes, in the Wild West, redemption didn't ride in with a gun. It came quietly, holding a baby, wrapped in nothing but love.